Hey, I'm Sage Plays. Welcome back to The Lost World. Last week we started Isla Sorna with the beach and the worker village, but this week we've got a lot more to do. The harvester camp, the trailers, the game trail, the Rex nest, and starting with the riverbed that you see towards the beginning of the film with the Stegosaurus. These scenes in The Lost World are our first proper look at the interior of the island, and it immediately shows how different it is to Isla Nublar, mainly because they film most of it in California rather than Hawaii like the first one. The vegetation is very different, there's a lot more conifers and things like that. We're going to put some cedars in here and use them to block out the sun in places to get the kind of dappled light that I want in this scene. The lighting in this game is so good, and the ability to be able to choose where rays of sunshine come through depending on where you've placed your trees is one of my favourite things about it. Once we finish placing the cedars, we're going to add some of the new cypress trees with the moss to the sides of the river. They look very much like some of the riverside trees in the film. And when the team encounter the Stegosaurus, they're stood by a load of fallen trees in the middle of the riverbed. It's almost dry, the riverbed, and we'll be simulating that in a second. So we'll just drop some dead trees down here, use a few different types, and then get them so that they're spanning the riverbed. And then we'll drop in some more vegetation as well, just using the elephant grass. And then we're going to use the cypress swamp brush and remove the water at certain points so we get the more dried up riverbed look that you see in the film, and the amazing mist as well, which is the best thing about this cypress swamp brush for me. This is where those sun rays shining down comes in. You can also go in and remove the trees, so we've just got the odd cypress tree here and there where you can just see the branches hanging down rather than actually looking like a cypress swamp. And then we can get the Stegosauruses in. Here's the first one, and there's those light rays I was talking about. They look so good. All the dinosaurs in this episode are basically temporary. They're just here so we can see what it's going to look like when it's finished, because in the last episode we're going to introduce massive populations of all of them and try and get an ecosystem going. That's the Stegosaurus Riverbed. Let's move on to the main dinosaur area in this episode, which is the game trail. We're just to the left of that riverbed here, you can see it in the bottom right. I'm using that as the water source that Pete Postlethwaite's character talks about when they decide not to camp out on the game trail. And the main feature of the game trail itself is lots of kind of brown, dry grass. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge to do. After lots of experimenting with the terrain paints, I think the arid grassland does the best job, but give us that kind of yellowy brown colour that we want, and you still get tufts of grass as well. And we know there must be some sort of little cliff or rise on the way in there, because there's that really cool shot of the Hummer or whatever it is jumping into the game trail at the start of the sequence, so we'll make sure that we've got one of those. We'll use some more elephant grass and some rocks to make this rise in the terrain here look more natural. And then we'll move on to doing the terrain painting. So we'll just fill this entire area in with the arid grassland, and then we'll use the arid soil to create trails in it where there aren't even any tufts of grass, just to bring it closer to what we see in the film. And we'll run some of this out into adjoining areas as well, so it looks a bit more natural. And we've surrounded it all with the conifer plants, which is the kind of plants that you see in the Lost World. They've got really green grass, which doesn't go well with the much browner grass that we've got everywhere else. So I'm just going to use a really tiny brush to get rid of all the edges so the green doesn't start until the trees do, so you can't really see it. And then finally, to soften off the join between the game trail area and the rest of the island, we'll start placing conifer trees just in from the borders, so the brown grass merges nicely into the surrounding trees. I'm using 4 or 5 different trees here just for variety, and that's the game trail done. We got a lot of dinosaurs to get in here, so let's do it. And here we go. You can just see the RV trailers at the bottom of the screen there. We'll be doing a lot more work on those later. And here's the dinosaurs. We got Mamenchisaurus, Pachycephalosaurus, Parasaurolophus, and Gallimimus in here. It's a really peaceful, bucolic kind of scene. Big fan of the Pachycephalosaurus. I don't think I've seen those in Jurassic World Evolution 3 yet. And with all the conifers and the cedars in the background, it's got such a different feel to Isla Nublar. I really like it. We've got a Parasaurolophus having a dust bath here, and this is the view from the riverbed. You see some Gallimimus strolling peacefully along here, but it won't be peaceful for long because we built a ramp and we're going to use it. Driving around really is one of the most fun things in this game. I thought I'd replicate the hunter sequence that you see in the film. We're going to need to have a hell of a lot of dinosaurs in here for the final ecosystem episode, because there's quite a few just trapped on this plane here and it doesn't look like that much. Right, that's the game trail done. Let's move on to the high hide. This is one of the few bits of actual building rather than landscaping we're going to be doing today, which makes a refreshing change, I think. We're going to take these 4 mesh fences, arrange these into the shape that we want to form the bottom of the hide. And then we're going to use these gutter pieces to create the sides. They're not exactly perfect for this, to be honest with you, but this is the closest I could get to what you see in the film. We're a bit short on kind of generic metal pole kind of pieces at the moment, but hopefully we'll get some more of those soon. What we do have that's brilliant though is the new fishing nets from the Wetlands DLC. These are perfect for the kind of camouflage netting that sits across the top of it. The pieces aren't quite big enough, so we'll use a few of them and just rotate them so they all meet up nicely with the poles at the side, and then we'll get them to a nice kind of camouflage dark green, and then we'll just use some more of the fence panels to create the base and the roof as well. Again, these aren't quite big enough, but this time we can scale them to the right size on one axis and then just copy them on the other axis. We'll copy them again to get the roof, and then we just need to build a mechanism to attach it to a tree. We'll use one of the straight wire generator pieces to create the first piece of the wire. These are so useful, use these all the time. And then we'll use one of the curved pieces to get us the kind of loop that would be launched over the top of the tree to keep it hanging up there. I noticed some security cameras on it as well. We do have security cameras in the game, but they just don't look like the ones we need here, and they're at a weird angle as well. So we're going to use these lights to stand in for them. They look pretty similar to the real thing. And then we just need a big tree to hang this from. So we're going to use one of the kapok trees, scale it up to its maximum size, and then find a branch which is at a nice height that we can hang the hide on, where we won't have branches and leaves in front of it that are going to spoil the view. So we'll find the perfect spot and start getting the high hide into place. I want this loop to actually be over one of the branches, so we'll just fit it in there. And there we go. That's the high hide completed. It is high and you hide. Let's move on to the harvester camp. This is where the InGen guys are taking all the dinosaurs they capture and storing them before taking them back to the mainland, and where they do one of the worst corporate presentations in history as well, which is interrupted by a Triceratops. So I'm placing this not too far from the game trail, on the opposite side to the water source, which kind of ties in with what they're saying in the film. So we're going to clear a big space for it and make sure we've got a little cliff here, which is where Malcolm, etc. look down on it before they go in and start messing with it. And then we're going to fill it with all the tents and the vehicles and the cages and everything else that you see in the film. If you're enjoying this, by the way, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel so you can catch the rest of the series. We're going to move on and start putting together the vehicle with the big communications array on the back of it, just using a pickup truck and a couple of the aerial pieces. And then we'll start putting the tents in. We're going to have lights everywhere that I can see lights in the film, because everything that we see here is going to take place at night, and try and get it as atmospheric as possible. This pile of random stuff from the Wetlands pack is really useful for things like this. We'll just get rid of the steps going up to it and sink it down to ground level. We can use this and various bits of this all over the camp to clutter it up and get it looking good. And we're also going to build our own campfire. So we're going to take the torch from the Jurassic Park gates, bury that into the ground, and then shrink down some of the smallest wood pieces, as small as they'll go, and build ourselves a little log fire. Just place them in random positions until they start to sort of get the shape that you'd expect from a campfire, and then we can just scatter this about the camp, and this will really up the atmosphere here. Just looking at this actually makes me really want to sit around a campfire somewhere out in the woods. It's just something so cozy about a fire. And with a few more pieces of wood in it, that's done. We'll copy that around and we'll move on to the main tent where they do the little presentation. We'll use whatever pieces we can find to get that kind of thrown together, doing a presentation on a island full of dinosaurs feel. The little monitor screen from the dig site in the Badlands set is really useful for things like this. We'll add in all the cages where the dinosaurs are stored. We'll scale this one up as big as it goes for the T-Rex. I think that is actually the T-Rex cage from the film there. And finally, we'll bring the forest in to meet everything we built. This is when it really starts to feel like the camp. And there we go, that's the harvester camp built. I think it could do with the dinosaur though. That's better. I think this Triceratops is going to shake things up a bit in the camp. I love that the dinos actually get wet in the rain. That looks really cool. You can even see water running off all the metal and things like that. So we'll bring in one of the Lost World vehicles and see what the Triceratops makes of that. He's not a fan apparently, but that's fine. We're going to move on to the T-Rex nest. This is one of my favourite spots in the film. You can only imagine how disgusting a T-Rex nest would be. If you see birds of prey and things like that, the state of their nests when they're bringing back dead animals all day long for the little chicks to feed on, when you scale that chick up to baby T-Rex size, it is pretty repulsive. I don't think we've really got the tools in the game to quite get it as disgusting as I want, but we're going to do our best. We'll start by putting in some of the rocks where they first observed the baby. We'll get a little depression in the ground where the baby will sit. This is set on the more tropical part of the island, so we use various different terrain paints to get some good ground coverage and some more of the tropical style trees in here, and then we'll start filling that in with bones. We've got a pretty good selection of bones in the statues tab, so we'll start getting some of these in to match the scene in the film. Got a tail, got a rib cage, got various other bones that we're going to scatter around here. We'll have some of them sat on top of the ground and then some of them slightly sunken into it like they've been there for a while. And then we're going to try and get some fresher remains in there. These coral pieces kind of look like bits of meat if we get these in the right position. I saw someone use the whole dinosaur statues to make corpses, which I kind of liked, but you can see the light glinting off the kind of bronze material, so I don't really want to use those here. Maybe we'll get some guts in as well with some of the other corals. And there we go, that's starting to look good. There's a couple of things missing though, and the first thing is flies. There are flies everywhere in this nest in the film, and I thought we'd be able to replicate that, but I ran into an issue, and I'm going to ask for your guys' help to see if we can solve this. The bin bags or trash bags have flies flying around them, as long as they are attached to a building, in common with all the kind of special effect pieces. So I've hidden the smallest building, the restroom, off in the jungle, and then I can bring in these bin bags. So as you can see, if we bury these into the ground, then we can have flies flying around. The issue I'm having is only the first bin bag I placed down appears to have flies on it. If you know more about this than me, please let me know in the comments, because I would really like this nest to be completely full of flies for the final episode, and at the moment there's only one set of flies. The other missing component is of course the Tyrannosaurs, and here they are. I love the baby T-Rexes in this game. They're so gangly, they're weirdly cute, and we got a whole family of them here. We ended up with 2 this time, but there will be the correct 1 T-Rex in the final episode. And while the baby has a little sleep, let's move on to the last thing we're going to do today, the trailers. These are the trailers. They were originally made by somebody called Altered Perceptions and uploaded to the workshop. Then they were improved by somebody called Bala D, or Baller D. And then finally, the Gaming Beaver improved them further. And in fact, this was just a few days before I started building this, which is why this video is a bit shorter than normal, because once I saw how good these were, there didn't seem any point in devoting an entire episode to building the trailers when people have already done a really good recreation of them. So I decided to use theirs. The only change I'm making, as you can see, is changing the windscreen from that weird kind of super bright blue to a more realistic looking grey. And then we are of course going to chop them up and have them falling off this cliff. In order to do that, we need a completely sheer cliff. So we're going to use the deep water tool with the slope set to maximum to get this cliff completely sheer. We'll join it up with the sea as much as possible, and then we'll get some rocks around the bottom to make it more realistic. And we'll do some terrain painting as well, just to make it look a bit more cliff-like. Always use a mixture of the rock and the cliff paints to get these looking realistic, otherwise it just looks way too samey. And once we've done that, we can start getting these trailers as they appear towards the end of the Lost World. So we're going to split this blueprint in half, and then we'll take the second trailer, align it nicely with the first trailer, and then hang it off the end of the cliff. And then we just need to adjust the sort of concertinery style join between them so it looks realistic. Well, as realistic as it looks in the film anyway. It's intersecting with the cliff here, so that's fine. We'll just move the whole thing back in a second. And then one final change is I realized if we change the windscreen so that it actually has one of the interiors on it and get the right interior, it looks like the glass is blown out like it did in the film. We'll add a waterfall in the top, and then we'll use the rubbish decals to add some debris at the bottom. And that is the trailers done. Now all we need is a couple of Tyrannosaurs. Here they come. This was a lot of fun to film, although trying to get 2 Tyrannosaurs to do what you want them to do at the same time was not easy. It's bad enough with one. And that is everything in the Lost World built. Really hope you're enjoying this series so far. In the next episode, we're going to build everything in Jurassic Park 3, including the Operations Center, which is one of my favourite sets in the series, and of course the Aviary. I'm aiming for it to be out next Saturday, but you know what it's like at Christmas. We've got a lot of family to visit and travelling to do, so it will certainly be out at some point between Christmas and New Year. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you then.